There's a whole lot we got to see right off the bat when training camp opens. There's this, and this, and this. Let's talk about my top 5 things that I want to see when training camp opens next week. Well, the sunglass thing, I think, hopefully worked again. I hope you guys are doing good. It's getting really close, and I'm starting to get pretty excited. It's my favorite time of year, well, amongst the draft and everything else. But with teams coming back into the fold, getting back onto their practice fields, and getting going at what this year's version is going to be for all the teams across the league, but in particular the one in Kansas City. So there's lots and lots to go over. And honestly, narrowing it down to 5 things really kind of threw me for a loop. So much so that I got to leave out things like Anthony Sherman and whatever he may be wearing when he shows up to camp, as well as a lot of other little nooks and crannies. But what I've tried to do so far is go over especially the rookies that I think are going to make an impact. And if you missed the Colin Saunders video, I did that the other day. That's back there. We've gone through most of the rookie class. We've gone through some of the guys that are UDFAs that might have a chance at making this roster. So there's a lot of the little things, but these next 5 are the big deals, the ones that, to get off on the right foot, this team needs to make progress. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification. Click the bell. That'll help you get information about when something new goes up. And if you like this one, leave the thumbs up. We'll talk about comments later in the show. Number 5, the battle there. Is Cam Erving healthy? Is he versus Andrew Wiley going to be a thing, or is it kind of a done deal already? Wiley's been pretty stout this offseason, but Erving's been out the whole time too. So really, the starting 5 is going to be important, especially as teams try to come up with ways to get to Mahomes and get pressure on him. That athletic 5, the best 5, is who they'll play. And that's going to be, right away, has to be established week 1 and be able to be sustained. I think it ends up being Wiley. But Cam Erving is a veteran with experience that's been injured and honestly should feel somebody breathing down his neck for his job, if not having taken it already. So I do expect to be a fight there. I don't think you're going to see Cam Erving kind of back off or anything like that. Now, there's a couple of outliers. Could Allegretti make some noise at the center position? Possibly. Is Khalil McKenzie going to make a push to get in amongst that center-left guard mix? Because LDT's firmly entrenched at right guard, so I think that's pretty much a set deal. But the big thing comes down to Cam Erving and his versatility versus Andrew Wiley and his youth and honestly his nasty streak. He plays a lot more aggressive than Erving does, but Erving can do a lot more. I think in the end, he's going to end up being the 6th lineman, but we've talked about that before. And I think at the end of the day, that's how it's going to come out. And we'll give somebody next to Eric Fisher that they can throw in there week 1 and keep there the entire season, as long as there's no injury or anything like that. So it's a good place to start. Number 4, and that's really revolving right around Mahomes in general, but the pairings. He and Kelce are the best dynamic duo in terms of a pass thrower and a pass catcher in this league. They are the best at their positions respectively, and I think together they are such a powerhouse that you have to make sure that you get them off on the right foot. Now, that may mean limiting some snaps for Travis Kelce, kind of working him back in. You don't want to rush that too much, especially for a veteran like that who knows the offense in and out and really doesn't need to be out there every 5 minutes. I think you want to kind of work him in slowly, but it does take, even with guys with a rapport like that know each other well and have chemistry, you got to get those snaps in. You got to get to it, and I think that's got to be emphasized later in camp. So this is really a top 5 of what's going to happen the first week, what you want to look for, and what's going to be important to start with. And while I think Kelce and Mahomes are going to probably pick up where they left off in their little fishing trip, if you missed that on social media, it looks like they're fairly relaxed, in a good frame of mind, and I think they should show up to camp ready to roll. And if they can do that and just make the most out of the snaps that they do take together, I think that's going to be just fine. The bigger question will probably roll as to who takes Travis Kelce's place. We've talked a lot about the tight ends this offseason. But again, getting that chemistry with Mahomes, getting Mahomes in a rhythm, I think what teams are going to try to do with all the speed on the outside is they're probably going to leave some options down the middle. And the middle's going to be the target for Pat Mahomes, and he's got to be able to find somebody besides Travis Kelce to throw to. Number 3 is something that I have been concerned about all offseason, but the team seems fairly comfortable with. And we have to see just how they line up, how they deploy, how much they move around. Charvarius Ward and Bashaud Breeland. Fuller is Fuller. He's going to be outside some of the time. The majority of the time, he's going to be in on the nickel. In today's defenses, running nickel is really like your base defense. It's rare that you go to a 2-corner set. So really, he's going to be inside the majority of the time. That said, he's Kendall Fuller. He's a known quantity. Yes, he didn't have as good a year last year as he had previously. I think the scheme's going to help him in particular. But he's also going to help everybody else. And so what I want to see is, where does Breeland line up versus Ward? Do they stay on the sides, on one side or the other? We saw for years that Marcus Peters didn't trail people, that he had one side of the field to himself, and that was his responsibility. We may see that again. I know Spags has been kind of a little bit more all over the place through his tenure about what he likes to do. And I think, from my perspective, I think keeping Breeland mostly with Fuller is a plus. They played well together in Washington in a scheme that was more like what we're going to see out of Kansas City this year. And I think the two of them together as a duo, I think that kind of lends more of itself than you would get from either of them by themselves. I think that's really the X factor in terms of how the three of them are going to play. Is who gets the support from Fuller and who can work with him the best. Whereas the other guy's going to be more of on an island. And Ward is more of a press man. I think he's more comfortable, uptight on the wide receivers that he's got to cover, being able to stay in contact, keep a hand on him at least. And so when he's asked to play in space, that's going to be a challenge for him, a little bit different than he's played in the past. And he had a little bit of some hiccups there playing zone last season. I think that's going to be a challenge for him. And that's all got to happen right from the get-go. The horn goes off, and they got to perform like right now. And that brings me to Mahomes' other target, his new target. And at this point, when I'm recording today, we still haven't heard a decision about Tyreek Hill, so we don't know what it'll be. We still expect, even though it's only a few days away, that he will be in camp. Maybe it won't be on time. Honestly, we don't know at this point. But at some point, he's going to be in camp. He's going to be practicing. In the meantime, yes, Sammy Watkins is there. He'll be the primary receiver, but he's not going to do Tyreek Hill things. That's going to be up to Hardman. You're going to see Hardman on jet sweeps. You're going to see him doing some of the low crossers and maybe even, I hope, some of the behind the line of scrimmage crossers that Tyreek did in those little shovel passes. I think that's going to be great for Mecole Hardman. But he's got to get into it. Just bought his mom a house, so he's clearly comfortable, feeling good with himself. I hope he's prepared because he, again, just like OTAs, is going to have a lot thrown at him right away off the get-go. And I think what we'll see is kind of a surge and then a pullback. So don't be too hard on him right away. I think you're going to see him perform well initially. And then as the complexity of the offense install goes on, he's going to have some hiccups. Week 2, week 3 of the preseason are going to be a little bit, I think, more difficult for him than week 1 will be. He can play a little bit more on instinct at that point. It's going to be how he progresses from week 2 to week 4 and then going into the regular season. And a lot of that will become clearer once we know about Tyreek Hill as well. But the chemistry, the connection with Mahomes has got to come forward in order for this team to be able to come out and hit on all cylinders. You're going to need to give the defense a little bit of a break. As they're all breaking in both the scheme and all their new teammates. The offense has to hit the ground running on week 1 and be able to put up points to win games. And that's going to come down partially to Mecole Hardman being able to fit into the offense and get with Mahomes. I'm confident he can do it. It'll be how many touches that he gets. And I think what we'll find out the first week is just exactly how much Andy's planning to feed him right off the bat. And maybe that may be a way to jumpstart him in this offense. And my top thing to watch as camp opens is how the leadership evolves of the defense. Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark. It's their time. It's time to take over that defense. Eric Berry's not coming back. Justin Houston is going to play, I think, pretty well for the Colts. They have to have their fresh leadership in place. And we've seen some interviews lately from Tyrann in particular that seem to act like he's grown into this leadership position. He was brought to this town to be a leader. There's no growing into it. That's why he was signed. And I think that's going to have to show from day one, especially with a rookie in the backfield with him like Thornhill will be, or even Watts at that matter. I think Watts will be the third coverage safety. If they're looking at getting pressure or playing, playing the run in nickel, it'll be Sorensen. But if you need three guys back there in coverage, it's going to be Watts. But he's got to lead those guys. And honestly, he's got to lead the whole secondary. I think Kendall Fuller, like I talked about earlier, he's going to improve, I think. But he's not a huge vocal guy from what I understand. So it's got to be Tyrann Mathieu. That's why he's here. And I think he's embracing that role. Frank Clark, on the other hand, is going to have to run the front seven. And he seems like a guy that not only brings energy physically when he practices, but brings a lot of energy to the room, to the meetings, to the huddle. And he's got to do that too. There's got to be a big voice, somebody to push everyone else to put out once they get on the field, and that's going to be key. Those two guys are the key to this defense, not only getting together and meshing, but being able to perform at a level that can keep up with the offense. And like I've said all offseason, if they can just stay to a middling kind of 15, maybe even as low as 20, they can do enough to help the offense and get themselves to a Super Bowl. That's the overall arching thing that they have to see. This is a Super Bowl bound team, and those two guys have to lead the defense's part in it. So that's what I'm going to be watching right off the bat. Those things in particular are what I'm keen to see. Let me know what you are keen to see. I know there's a lot out there, and there's a million players that everybody wants to know about. We've gone over quite a bit of them, especially the rookies. But leave in your comments, what are some of the keys that you think maybe I missed or I haven't addressed yet? Put them down there. Let's talk about it. I appreciate everything that you guys have been doing in leaving comments and putting up with the live streams and all that kind of stuff. We're going to keep that going. I'm going to try to make sure that we keep that through the season, except for weeks where they do have a Monday night game. But have more coming for you next time. I'm going to try to get back to the franchise reviews and that kind of thing. But I'm very excited for this week. Enjoy the Anthony Sherman show. And thank you guys. If you're new here, hit the sub, the notification, leave your comment, and hit the thumbs up if you like this one. Check out these videos also, and I'll check you next time.